And this is once again, not in theory, in practice. Just 2 weeks ago, when I bought my client something in a multiple offer situation, we did not actually have the highest price. In today's video, I'm going to quickly go through the strategies, methods, and the negotiating tactics I personally use on the behalf of my buyers in a multiple offer / bidding war situation to get them the property at the right price. Hey everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Realtron Realty Inc. back with another video here today. My contact info in the description box. Feel free to comment, rate, and review as well if you want to. If you will dislike this video and you want to leave a bad review, feel free to do that as well. Before I get into the main points of this video, namely the strategies and methods I use in a multiple offer situations for my buyers, and this is not in theory, I've done it, I did it recently, in fact 2 weeks ago, I want to make a quick disclaimer. Disclaimer is that just because you've worked with an agent in the past and they didn't get you a property in a multiple offer situation or a bidding war situation and you didn't get it, does not mean they were not doing their job. It could mean that, it could mean that they did not know how to negotiate and leverage your offer against other people's offers and win the offer bidding war and win the multiple offer presentation to get you the property. But it can also mean that they were doing their job, because part of our job when we work with buyers is to make sure that our clients, even if they're themselves are okay and willing, able to do so, not overpay for a property, right? Because if you're going to buy with me, I have to think about if you're overpaying for something. My job isn't just to tell you to buy this, buy that. Also my job to tell you at what price you should buy it, at what price you should go in, at what price you should put your maximum. Even if you're willing and able to exceed that maximum, I wouldn't feel good as a professional if I know you're overpaying for something. Quick disclaimer there. Okay, let's get into the points. Number one, going in firm. Now, obviously, none of these I've made up myself. These are tactics and strategies I've learned from other people more experienced than me when I first got into this business. But going in firm. What does that mean? Well, it means removing the two main conditions that sellers hate to see. And by doing that, you make your offer much stronger and much more formidable. So those two conditions, the aforementioned conditions, are a financing condition and an inspection condition. So if you cannot afford to increase and make your offer stronger through the price, if you do this, if you go in firm, your offer will be much stronger. And this is once again, not in theory, in practice. Just 2 weeks ago, when I bought my client something in a multiple offer situation, we did not actually have the highest price. There was an offer that was priced higher than us. The reason we got it was because we were firm. Although our price was lower, it was in range, but lower. We did not have those two conditions, the inspection condition and the financing condition. Thus, they decided to give it to us. As a result, this is a very good strategy. Obviously, it's a case-by-case basis. When I sit down with my buyers and I look at the portfolio, I assess for myself that sometimes certain buyers cannot afford to remove and waive their financing condition because they might not have the strongest financing. However, for this buyer that I worked with and others in the past, if I know for a fact, I look at their numbers, I look at their finances, I get a second opinion from a mortgage broker, I know for a fact that they can actually get approved for their mortgage and they've been pre-approved. At that point, I tell them that this is an option we have. So that's number one, going in firm. And we'll reroute back into this for one of my next points, so keep this in mind. Number two, deciphering how many people you're actually competing with. So what do I mean by this? Well, fortunately for us, this industry is regulated. Not as regulated as I like it to be, but it is regulated. Meaning if there's a multiple offer scenario, the listing side, the selling side has to disclose how many offers are on the property. Meaning we know how many people we're competing with. But unfortunately, sometimes it is not an accurate representation of the truth. So let's go with an example. Let's say me and my buyer are competing with 4 other individuals, meaning in total, including us, there's 5 offers on the property. When we are competing with 4 other individuals, I know this through what? The brokerage. The brokerage tells me, either through notifications or emails, that there was an offer registered, and now I know I'm competing with four other people. However, this is not always the case. Sometimes you're actually only competing with 2 other people, and 2 of those offers are fake offers that the listing agent, the selling agent, asked one of the agent friends to submit on the behalf of a fake buyer or a real buyer, but it's not a buyer for that property, in order to hype up the offer presentation. For example, imagine a club that's really empty in the inside, but they ask people to line up to make it look more full and more happening than it actually is. This is the same thing. It's fake offers to make the product seem more in demand than it actually is. As a result, threatening and leveraging other offers, the real offers, to go up in price. On the flip side of things, at times there are offers that are not registered, and because of a favor, or the agent is also bringing their own buyer and they don't register that offer. So this could go both ways, right? So part of my job, the method I use is I truly have to decipher how many offers there are, and based on and according to that, see how in demand this property is. And that really does impact the price and the negotiating and the strategy. Number 3, one of the things I do is I try to decipher how many shots we get on a property. What does this mean? Right. So when there's a multiple offer situation, sometimes you get one shot, meaning you come in with your best offer off the bat. Other times you get 2 shots, meaning 2 rounds, meaning the selling side, and I know this, I worked on the selling side as well, picks the top 3 or top 2 offers, calls them and says, hey, come back with your strongest offer. We're going to finally close this deal tonight. I have to decipher whether we have 1 shot, meaning we have to go on with our strongest offer, or 2 shots, meaning we'll go with an offer. If it gets accepted, good, but we have an ace in the back where we can make this offer stronger. It's harder than you think to do this because selling agents are not always upfront with you. They're not going to tell you, yeah, you have 2 chances. Just come in with a weak offer. They will most often tell you that no, just come in with your strongest offer. Sometimes they're honest with you, but most often in my case, they've never straight up told me this is a 2 shot or 1 shot. And once again, part of my job is to decipher whether we have 2 shots or 1 shot. And the way I do that is I talk to the other side, and through experience, you get a good feel for who's bullshitting and who's not bullshitting. And moreover, there's a lot of other periphery and auxiliary details around the edges that you kind of connect the dots and you make up your mind whether that side is bluffing or not. Number 4, intentionally including terms and conditions that you know in a counter offer you will remove. Now, this is where I refer back to number 1. For instance, the conditions we were referring to and talking about, the inspection clause and the financing condition. At times, if I do decipher that we have 2 chances at this and I know we're going to get a counter offer, I intentionally include an inspection clause, for instance, in our first offer, just to scratch it out and exit out in our strongest final offer. Now, I hate doing this bullshit dancing game, but sometimes in this business you have to do it, unfortunately. It's just the name of the game. I like it better when it's just straightforward and you don't have to do it, but at times you have to see which way the wind is blowing and be flexible and go with the flow, and that includes doing this dance. So let me clarify and elaborate a little bit further, right? Let's say we have 2 shots at it. I've deciphered we have 2 shots at it. And I prepare our first offer. And there's a lot of terms and conditions, but we'll use the conditions such as inspection for our example. What I will do is I will say, you know what, to my client, what I think is best is we include this inspection clause. Even I know for a fact that we will end up firm because that's our end goal, because our strongest offer is at this price, at this term, at this closing, at this deposit, a million other things, and no inspection. I know that's the end goal and that's our strongest offer. But for the time being, I'm going to include this clause, send it. Inevitably, when they counter offer, I will X out this clause, scratch it off, grab your initials, because in the mind of a seller, believe it or not, they like looking at certain terms and conditions being X'd out, removed from a contract, versus those terms and conditions never existing in the first place. The end result is the same thing. Those terms don't exist at the end once the 2 parties agree to the agreement. However, psychologically speaking, and I don't have a study, this is just anecdotal experience here, sellers like looking at certain terms that they were not favorable to being X'd out versus those terms not being included in the first place, even though the end result, once again, is the same. This is just one example, right? And this doesn't always work either. But you can do this with the deposit amount, you can do this with the closing, you can do this with so many other aspects and facets of the offer. Number 5, putting the pressure on the selling side by putting in an offer with a quick expiry. Meaning every time we put an offer in this business, there's an expiry to the offer. The offer is not in perpetuity for the rest of our lives, right? It expires at some point. Either they accept or they let it expire or they counter offer. Let's say the offer presentation time is 5 p.m. We send an offer at 3. And I know for a fact we're competing with a bunch of other offers. And once again, case by case basis, but generally speaking, I would most likely put the date and time of the expiry of the offer for 7 p.m., meaning they won't have all night and all day to think about it. If they really love our offer, they have to really act quick because it might expire. And by the time they're thinking about a bunch of other offers, the clock is ticking on our offer. Once again, this does not guarantee an offer acceptance or counter offer, but these are all little tactics here and there that you can use sometimes in conjunction with one another, and an amalgam of all these stuff could end up working. I have many situations where this stuff has worked for me. Some situations it hasn't. Number 6, submitting the offer with a deposit. Now this also makes your offer stronger as well. What does this mean with the deposit? In normal circumstances, what happens is when you send an offer, whether it's through email or in person, because sometimes, in a pre-COVID world, the offer presentation is an in-person offer presentation with 5 different buyers in a building. At times, and in other situations where it's not an offer presentation, it's not a multiple offer situation, what happens is you submit a deposit or you submit an offer and the deposit is due upon acceptance. Meaning once the seller accepts the offer, the buyer has to submit a deposit within 24 to 48 hours, whatever it may be. However, if you want to make the strongest showcase of serious intent to actually close a deal, at times you submit the offer with the deposit check, and it's sometimes 60K to 100 to, however much. So you pretty much send the offer, they see the price, they see all the terms, and there's a check right in front of them. And that once again incentivizes sellers a bit more. Obviously, if they don't accept, the check gets returned. It's not as if they keep the check. And also, it's sellers have easier time. There's more ease of mind because there has been a epidemic recently, as I've made videos on it in the past, of buyers submitting offers and it getting accepted, and the buyers not actually submitting the deposit, because what they actually did was they submitted offers on multiple properties at the same time concurrently, and 2 of them got accepted, and it's not as if they can buy 2 houses, so they just had to submit the deposit for 1 of them. So this tactic does provide some ease of mind and alleviate some anxieties for sellers, as a result making your offer much stronger. Anyways, those are some stuff. I can keep going on forever. Hopefully that was informative and you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, comment, rate, and review. My contact information in the description box. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.